Hey guys, how are we? Hey, Andy here with Handy Andy's Leathercraft. Hey, this belt that we've been working on, I'm quite happy with the dyeing process I've been doing for the colour I want to reach. I've given it about 24 hours to dry, and then with a rag I give it a little rub down. If there's any little excess kind of dyeing stuff, then when you're doing the resoline process, then sometimes it can obviously, by using the resoline being wet, it will kind of lift a little bit of the dye off. So I'm going to show you the process which I kind of use, and it kind of is good because it's not too streaky or leaving bubbles and stuff and whatnot. So what I've done is, with the resoline, I've taken water from the kettle, and I've done like a kind of a 50-50 mix with resoline and water from the kettle that's been boiled off. So then basically, once I've kind of mixed it, and I'll put it into a little container which is going to be more easier to get the sponge into, and with one of the just ordinary, from the supermarket, get an ordinary sponge, which is quite good for using. And then I like to have a little rag as well, because when you're doing the towards the end process, which you'll see when there's some bubbles, I kind of dip the sponge, and kind of, without having too much resoline on it, I'll dip the sponge onto the rag to take some of the excess off, and then that's what helps take some of the bubbles away. So I'll run through the process, and then we'll have a little look more when we're up at the top end of the belt. Okay, so just with the tub, I'm just going to be quite liberal at first. I'm just going to kind of dip my sponge in there, make sure I get plenty of resoline on it. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. And then I'm just going to start at one end, and it's quite liberal, and I'm just going to do a quick pass like that. So I'll just do another little dip into my mixture, and then I'm just gonna as you can see, it goes a little bit like kind of a milky colour, and which is fine, because then that, when it dries, that milky white colour disappears again. But a lot of people will just give it one kind of pass with a resoline using a dauber or something. And see, this time now I'm just going to dab the sponge onto my rag, just to kind of get the excess off, and then when I do another pass, so you can see a little bit from the white milky bits. You don't want it to be streaking or anything, so I'm just going to give it another little dab, just take a little bit off. Okay. So if we just give it a little bit of time, I've got a little drip there, so I'm just going to start kind of as you can see, you will get a little bit of the dye because it's wet, and dye does bleed before putting a coat on it to stop it from bleeding, so you will get a little bit of a rub off. And you can just see at the front of the belt there's a couple of little bubbles, so we just kind of take them off with a sponge, and then we look back on the belt, make sure there's no bubbles or any bad streaking or anything. So we'll just let this have a little. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that last. Right. So as you can see, it's kind of got like a milky kind of coating to it, but eventually that'll clear up as it dries off. Okay, so there you go. It doesn't take a long time with the resoline. About after 20 minutes or so, it'll start to disappear, the milkiness of the resoline as it starts to dry, and there's not any bubbles or anything that's come, because you can get a lot of bubbles when you're doing like 2 or 3 passes. And obviously there's no streaking. You see little streak marks where the resoline's kind of a bit more thicker in areas, but when you're using this sponge and you do quite a few passes and then you do less and less resoline on it, then you'll notice that you'll notice then that it'll start to come quite clear. And it's nice as well because then it takes the richness. You'll start to see the richness and the tones, like a kind of almost like a marble effect coming through in the leather. And then when you kind of give it a buff out as well, it gives it a bit more of a kind of a glossier finish. So you can see already now that the milkiness of the resoline starts to fade then as it starts to dry. But I'm not going to do the other side yet, so I'm just going to give that plenty of time to dry, and then once that's done, that's the top coat. That's it, finished for the top, and then we'll turn it over and we'll do the inside of the belt, and we'll give it a couple of passes. Obviously the inside of the belt, it's not as important as the outside, because the outside's the one that people's going to be seeing more. But with the inside, we'll give it a few passes using the same technique so we don't have any bubbles or streaks. And then it's just a case of then doing the burnishing to give the edging a really nice glossy seal as well by using the Tocino. And once we do that, then we'll get the hardware on it, and hopefully we'll have one happy customer. So there you go. That's how I do my resoline, and using that technique, streak and bubble free. And hopefully if you get a chance to try it out, hopefully you'll see the results as well. It's quite nice rather than using a dauber or a brush. Okay, thanks for watching. Please remember, if you'd like and hit the subscribe button, that would be absolutely amazing to help my channel out. Thank you. Bye.